Can transit, and it looks like Adam and I don't really have a big disagreement on the main proposition. Can transit reduce the congestion problem in the GTA? My point is, unless transit captures over 100% of the new travel, it cannot reduce traffic congestion. And that's because you aren't allowing the city to expand anymore, and you aren't building any more roads, and so that doesn't happen. Now, we all know about the difficulties the Board of Trade has talked about with respect to competitiveness and congestion. Toronto having the longest commutes in the world, it really doesn't have it, but it's pretty close. Okay, notice Toronto way ahead of LA. Notice the size of the cities there. Houston and Dallas-Fort Worth, both slightly larger than Toronto. Travel times round trip are about a third what they are in Toronto, and they don't really have transit there. And the cities sprawl much more significantly than does Toronto. Now, the Board of Trade and others who see these points say, well, that means we need more transit because, you know, we're not good compared to these other places. Well, you know, the problem is, according to Statistics Canada, the average automobile driver in the country takes 59 minutes round trip to go to work every day, and the average transit rider 105 minutes. So something's not right there. Also, there's sort of this anti-car war that Mayor Ford has talked about. You know, the car's not all bad. If you look historically at GDP per capita among the richest nations going back to 1500, this is OECD data, what you find is we gradually become richer. It really started in the 1820s with transit when the numbers went way up, and with the car they went up even more. The basic point is that economists are fairly well agreed upon the fact that the more you can maximize the amount of jobs that people can get to in a certain period of time, the more you're going to improve the affluence of the community and the economic growth. Now, none of what I'm saying, however, should be interpreted to suggest that transit isn't important. Transit is crucial to especially the urban core, and that here would be the old city of Toronto, East York, and York. But it is also important, and very important perhaps from a perspective of traffic congestion, to downtown. And here's the basic problem. Transit is about downtown. You're not going to get commuters to go anywhere else in significant numbers but downtown. The world record says that there is no center in Western Europe or North America that has a significant market share that is not a downtown area. What we have in Toronto at this point, 14% downtown, about, 28%, 29% in the rest of the city, and the suburbs now at 57% of the employment. What I'm saying is transit cannot provide automobile competitive mobility except really to downtown. Now, it is possible theoretically to provide it throughout the community. This is what you'd need, an 800-meter grid of metros. And it would be very difficult to make that work from a timing perspective. But by the way, I've done the numbers. It would take more than the total income of everybody that lives in the urban area to run that. And so that is the basic problem. Transit is about downtown. Now, there was some work done at the Brookings Institution recently, which is a center-left think tank in Washington, and I hate to use U.S. examples, but I don't have Canadian research on this. What they basically said is, how many of the jobs in the metropolitan area can the average resident get to in 45 minutes on transit? Now, by the way, 45 minutes in transit is about twice as long as the average American spends getting to work. And you see the numbers are really very small. Portland with its good transit reputation, about 8%. Boston was the best at 13%. So the basic problem is that while you may be near a transit stop, it doesn't help you if that transit service doesn't get you in a competitive time to the place that you need to go. Traffic congestion increases with density. This is very clear from the international experience. As you get higher densities, traffic congestion increases. This is vehicle hours, which is a better indicator in terms of traffic than vehicle kilometers. Vehicle hours per square kilometer, according to data from about 30 first world cities. And what you find if you look even within the metropolitan areas is that there are big differences in the metropolitan areas. This is data from the 440 major metropolitan counties. These are counties within the metropolitan areas of the United States, more than 1 million. You see that as density goes up, traffic goes up on an intensity basis. If you look at comparisons, and Canada's not included in this data, but INRIX, a GPS organization, rates cities around metropolitan areas in the United States and Europe based upon the excess time that is spent in traffic, and you see the U.S. cities are almost not even on the map compared to Europe. The congestion is much worse there, even though they have more transit. 13 of the 100 worst cities are in the United States, 87 are in Europe. Very quickly, nearly all growth in the last 5 years since nearly all growth in the Toronto area has been in the suburbs. That chart doesn't show it very well, and even with respect to the future, most of the growth is going to be in the suburbs. This is growth transit really can't handle. And to just conclude, I would suggest the answer is to focus on objectives. The answer is to focus on minimizing travel time. If that means more transit, fine. If it means more highways, fine. I don't agree that there's no way to build more highways, but I certainly agree that you can't bulldoze them through developed areas. But anyway, I think that takes care of it.